All right, everybody. It is 7:59. I'm going to give everybody time to come in. Just give you guys a little bit of time to come in, and then we'll get started with our special guest tonight. So when you guys come in, we'll start doing something new. Just share. Tell us where you're watching from, and just let us know that you're there. All right, guys, so what we're going to do, for those of you that are on, we're going to share. I want you guys to share this live video on your page. We want as many fathers to be impacted as possible. I'm going to do it as well. So we want you guys to share. If you want to share it to a group page, your personal page, let's just share it so we can impact. When you share it, just say we are live. All right, I've done it. All right, guys, how you all doing? We are here again with A Father's Authority. I'm Nate Holloway, and for those of you who may be tuning in for the first time, A Father's Authority is a program that's set to, the purpose is to change the narrative and start a conversation on fatherhood. I've been doing this since February. It's a part of Kingdom Relationships, which is a ministry my wife and I started. And the goal is to interview different fathers to give you guys some wisdom and the importance of fatherhood in the lives of our children, and how the absence of fathers impact the children. How a lot of the guys I've interviewed, as well as me, didn't have fathers coming up. So we're here to tell you how it impacted us, good and bad. But we are going to do it tonight. Tonight I have very special guest, my new friend. We met your mutual friend, Gareth Warren. Gareth, how you doing, man?
Hey, I'm doing very well. How about yourself, Nate?
I'm doing good. Thank you for coming on tonight. We're so glad to have you. Gareth and I met through, I don't know if you guys remember, Harrison, who was interviewed last month. And Harrison sent me a text and said, I got somebody that will be great. And so Gareth and I talked. We instantly became friends, and he's on tonight. So Gareth, man, tell us about yourself. Tell us about you, your family. Go tell the people who you are.
Well, first I'll say, man, God's blessed me for sure. I have a really beautiful family, man, and I couldn't write the story myself if I had the opportunity to. So I'm originally from Texas. Grew up in Texas, really in a small part of Texas, East Texas, called Tyler, Texas. Really, I'm a country boy at heart, to be honest. But although I live in the city of D.C. or right outside of D.C. now, I kind of migrated to this area a little bit when I was after college, or right around college time frame, and started to build out my life a little bit. And God shared some great things with me, and really eventually I moved back to the Maryland area after moving away for about 3 years. Although I didn't think I would move back, to be honest, and met my wife here in 2009, and then we ended up getting married in 2010. Fast forward, 10 years, coming up 10 years of marriage this year. We have three beautiful girls. Three beautiful girls that are 5. That's Grace, and then our Karis is actually 3. It should be 4 in May, and then we have Hannah, who's 21 months. So really, really, really excited about my girls. We've been blessed. I can't complain, man.
That's good, man. Now, you're not a Cowboys fan, are you?
Oh, I absolutely am. Where's my hat?
Don't do it. Don't. The interview is over. It's over. Yeah. So, man, it's funny how you said that you never thought you'd come back, and then you met your wife. That's what happened with me and my wife. She was in Virginia, then she moved. She came back. She didn't think she was coming back to Virginia, and she came back, and she met me. And same thing. We met 2012, 2013, we were married. So
Wow.
totally understand the process that God takes you through sometimes. So let me ask you, tell us the story about your life growing up with or without your father. You and I talked a little bit. I know your story, but tell us your story about life with or without your father growing up.
Yeah, it's a good question. Actually, I didn't grow up with my father. However, I tell you, everybody, my father and I have a great relationship. As a matter of fact, he just left town to go back to Houston recently. So I grew up without my father. I met him when I was 16, and at that point, it was my life. I was kind of trying to figure out who I was in life, and met him, and it was actually a little bit of a unique situation because I honestly had said before, if I ever met my father, I would actually kill him. And it was that strong, right? And to know that we have the relationship that we have today, and know that I said that at that point is very interesting. So I ended up meeting him. We ended up formulating a relationship. I learned about a whole different side of family that I didn't have. And man, it opened my eyes up to a lot of things. I mean, one of the big ones was forgiveness. I know on his heart, he always asked for forgiveness, said he was sorry, but man, I'm very grateful that he is the man he is, and really, kind of stood up to say, hey, I need to go find my son, because that's the only reason God left me back on this planet. So that was great. If I dial back for a second and tell you that, when I was growing up without my dad, although I didn't have my dad in my life, I did have a lot of male role models. Now, some of those male role models didn't necessarily teach me all the great things, but they taught me many of the things they did teach me were good and good learning lessons, and things that probably that really make me who I am today. So I grew up with my grandfather, some uncles that really were instrumental in my life and teaching me about how to be a hard worker, and how to make sure and be consistent, and really make sure and take care of my family, take care of my own. That led to really kind of, my work ethic being where it is, and really going after and doing everything I can to achieve. Some of the things they didn't teach me, I'll be honest about, were around things like the importance of purity and things like that, which, I can tell you, I know why they didn't teach me. I mean, they weren't taught. So, but I later learned that lesson, and that lesson actually has, it helped me to break generational curses and be where I am today. So.
That's good. That's good. And it's amazing. I said, I can relate because, and I've said this on here before. I never met my father, but God had a male role model for every season of my life. And that's important because, even though we didn't have our fathers, God made sure we were fathered.
Absolutely.
And he made sure that someone was there because he knew that we were going to be in this point in our life. And he knew we had to have people that would get us there. And I grew up in church, and my role models were mainly in church, but others that were not. But so I wasn't. I was taught about purity. Maybe didn't listen all the time, but I was taught those things. I was taught things like business and things like that. But it's things that helped me. So let me ask you: you met your father at 16. You said you have a great relationship now. How did that shift? What shifted that relationship? What got your relationship to where it is now?
Well, in full transparency, because if you know anything about me, I don't know how to lie anymore. I used to. I don't know how to lie anymore. The day that it happened, I actually had, and this kind of goes back to some of my, I'll call it rebellion. I was really watching one of my uncle's houses. I mean, he was staying with his girlfriend, so he said, "You could stay in my house, just watch my house for me." I actually had, I had a weapon. I was in the house by myself, so it kind of, that's kind of how I rolled at that time in my life. And I heard a knock at the door, and a knock at the door without somebody telling you that they're on their way over there, or you not knowing somebody's coming, is not something that you expect in that environment. So when they came to the door, all I saw was two people that looked like they had a little bit of a, I don't want to say, they looked like they were mixed, and they had some sort of island in them or something like that. And I was like, I don't trust this. Well, I didn't take any weapon with me. And then when they said who they were, it was almost like something changed and it flipped. And honestly, it went from me saying I would kill my dad to me really being curious and wanting to learn more and want to understand drivers behind why, et cetera, et cetera. And he actually had my uncle with him, which was interesting. So I got to meet my dad and one of my uncles, which was great. And man, it's a really interesting story because I started to get introduced to my other side of my family, and I started to learn why I did things that I did. I started to understand why I talk the way I talk. I started to understand why some of my mannerisms were where they were. I looked at even something as simple as looking at my dad's hands and seeing like my fingers look just like his, and my handwriting. I mean, it was ridiculously crazy. It was like for somebody I didn't meet until I was 16. I really was. I acted like him, and and come to find out, I was the oldest on my mom's side. Who really, I didn't give her credit yet, but I plan to. She did so much to make sure that me, my 3 other brothers and sisters were taken care of growing up, and I didn't realize that the reason why I took the role as leader most times is because my dad did that many times in our family. And man, it changed my life to know all that and to know even where I am today and interact with him. It says so much. So,
wow, that's amazing. So it was your dad and your uncle at the door. How did you feel when you found out who that was?
My heart was beating like crazy. I couldn't. I was lost for words. I didn't really know how to ask any questions, but they told me that my mom had told them where I was and wanted to sit down and talk with me. We actually ended up going back to my mom's house, and my mom made a meal, and we kind of sat down and we talked. I learned more about them. They didn't stay long. They ended up going back to Houston, but I ended up connecting with them further. And then, just the rest is history. It literally is like probably sometime in the next 3 months, I ended up visiting Houston and literally just met family member after family member. As a matter of fact, I was at my grandmother's house, who lived in an area called Clayton Homes, downtown Houston, and people were just showing up randomly. It was like it was a big party. Everybody showed up, but they didn't know why they were showing up. My family just liked to get together a lot, and they liked to hang out. They were showing up, and people were coming to meet me, and they didn't know who I was. And then when I told them who I was, people would just start crying, like, wow. Because it was almost like people didn't know, but now that they looked at me and they were like, they saw my uncles in me, they saw my dad in me, and it's like you talk about something powerful. I have an older sister, and I've always been the oldest, so that kind of like I was like, hey, that. So my older sister, I ended up meeting her, and she, literally, she couldn't hold back the tears. Her and I, we're like really, really tight even to this day, which is great. We've lived together, our kids play together. It's really tight. So
that's good, man. That's good. That's an awesome story. It's amazing how when you just open yourself up and to forgive, and God will make sure that happens, make it happen. You meet other family members, things like that. I feel the same way about my father. I know where he is. I don't know where he is, but I know what part of the country, the world he's in. And I found him on Facebook and things like that, and I've reached out. But my thing is, and I've told him, I said, I don't care why you left or whether it was your fault, my mom's fault, or anybody's fault. I don't care. I just want to meet you. That's it. So I started coming, and I still feel the same way. He told me to leave him alone, but I still feel the same way. And I tell my wife this all the time. If he were to come and knock at that door, my heart would probably drop too, but I would still say, I don't want to know why you left. Let's just start now. Let's just start a relationship. And I see you did that. And now look at your relationship with your dad. And that's something that other men can learn too. A lot of men out here now that didn't have their fathers are harboring unforgiveness. Mm-hmm. And just maybe if they just release and forgive, then maybe that could open up the door for their dad to come, and they can have that opportunity. Because you said you were going to kill him if you met
Oh
So,
yeah, I mean, like literally. I mean, I lie to you not. I made that statement to a lot of people, and actually, at that point in time, I probably would have. Funny enough, let me walk you through something though. This is very interesting. So God doesn't do anything just to do it, right? There's always a reason behind it. At the time that I probably would have met my dad, if I would have grown up with him, some of the things that I probably would have been exposed to probably would have put me in situations that and without me getting too detailed here, probably would have put me in situations that would have put me in some trouble, and I wouldn't have been able to be where I am today, right? And like, so there was some protection there, even in the time frame that I wasn't with my dad, and God put these other men in my life that impacted my life, even positively to this day. And man, I can't tell you enough how much, from a protection standpoint, and that looking at that now and understanding that's real. I mean,
yeah,
it's real. I mean, to go from like not meeting my dad, not knowing who he was, to having my dad at my wedding say that, most sons would stand up here and say my dad has influenced my life and had great impact on my life, to my dad actually saying I've had more impact on his life than he's had on mine.
wow.
And like he's had a lot of impact in my life and he doesn't realize it, but man, it was like humbling.
Man, that's awesome, man. That for him to say that, and that shows that God used you to change him. And I mean, I'm so happy for you. I'm so happy that that happened for you. So, what does fatherhood mean to you?
Oh man, fatherhood is not just being a dad and creating, right? I think fatherhood is beyond that. Dads create, right? And they leave where it is. Fathers nurture you, and I'll use some terminology that our pastor uses. Pastor Brett talks about, really fatherhood is about even the parent maturing more than it is the child. Sisterhood to me is really what God wants me to be. These little kids grow into growing in their lives, darting them in their direction. So I'm really kind of like the guardrail, guiding, teaching, and coaching along the way. Whereas the wisdom of God and His Word, right, is pouring right into them. Whereas I'm growing more than I realized during that process. So that's how I think about fatherhood and even like parenthood. I think, a lot of times my girls, my middle child, Kara, she always tells me, she says, she gets mad, Daddy, I'm not well. I don't need you to be my friend. I need you to be my daughter and let me be your dad, because I want to father you and I want to help you grow. So I'm not always going to give you exactly what you want. So that's an example what I would think of from a fatherhood standpoint. It's not always giving you what you want. It's really giving you what you need and helping you to really kind of follow the path that God wants you to. Just leading the way, shepherding the way for you to God wants you to be in your.
I think I lost you. Can you hear me? I think I lost you. I think I lost your vibe, your sound.
Nate, did I lose you?
There you go. There you go.
I can hear you. Yeah.
Yeah, I think your sound maybe is going in and out a little bit, but it's okay. But I mean, I like that because I've learned that, and I had to learn that myself as far as with
I
my.
lost my sound. I mean,
No, you good. I can hear you.
did you hear any?
It's just a little jumpy, but I can hear you. You there? So go. Can you
Oh,
disconnect?
okay.
You there? Disconnect and come back on. Disconnect and reconnect for me. So, guys, we're gonna wait for him to come back on. Just a little technical glitch. Sometimes it happens when you're using this type of streaming software. But he was just talking about what fatherhood meant to him, and that's an amazing story about how his father at 16 came and found him. And I was talking about this before a while back, about fathers finding their children. And when he's coming back, and one of the things that I realized is that you can be gone for a certain amount of time and still come back into your children's lives, and they be open to receive you. What happens, a lot of fathers don't think their kids will be open and think, well, I've been gone for so long, I can't do anything for them, or I can't reach out to have a relationship to them, when really your child is there and they're waiting for you to come back and to come in. Gareth, if you can hear me, I see you trying to come in. But I'll wait for you guys. There he is. You there? Can you hear me? All right, guys, what we're going to do is give me about 2 minutes. I'm going to disconnect and reconnect with Gareth, because we want to make sure we keep this going tonight. All right? I'll be back. No, you good.
Okay.
All right, guys, we're back. We're back with Gareth. So we left off, Gareth, on you telling us, so let's ask the question again. What does fatherhood mean to you?
Yeah, actually, fatherhood really for me is more than just like some people call a dad or father, right? I think a dad is a terminology of somebody that just creates a child, but a father is a little bit more than that, right? I think a father, when you think about it from the biblical perspective, is someone that not only creates, but also helps to nurture, grow, develop, dart in the right direction, provide guidance and leadership for your seed or for your child. For me, our pastor talks about all the time the importance of, when you think about parenting, it's not only growing a child and developing a child, but it's also growing you as a person as well. And really understand, especially when you think about it from how, God has been a father to us, right? And he helps us to grow. It's really you being that individual that's growing more as you're raising your child. I mean, I tell you from my perspective, I've learned more patience through raising children than I probably would ever learn in any other process that I can recall. So that's probably my perspective.
Yeah, that's true, man, because children will teach you patience. They will teach you patience. Hey, Mom. My mom is watching.
Hi, Mom.
I learned that, man, with my son, because he'll be like, I want daddy. I want that. Daddy, I want this. Okay, son, give me it. I want it now, daddy. Daddy, I want that. And then sometimes you can get frustrated with them, but you like try to teach them patience. You got to learn patience, because you want to teach them, hey, you got to wait. Be patient, son. Be careful. You just don't rush. And daddy's going to get it, but just give me a minute. I'm in the middle of something. Okay, I want it now. You got to stay weird. Wah. Think like you're crying. Wah. Hey, boy, but they teach us that, because we have to learn patience in order to raise them. What's your favorite part of being a father? Gareth, you there? Hello? Guys, you guys telling me, text him, tell him to try it again.
Something's wrong with it. He'd frozen long before you even asked him.
Oh, but he's going to come back, guys. But we're talking about favorite part of being a father. Guys, I'm telling you, kids are funny, and they will teach you patience. I'm learning that. Like I said, I'm learning that with Caleb. I'm learning how to be patient with him with his learning. I'm learning how to, because sometimes, we as parents, we can want our kids to pick up things like that, learn everything like that. And they don't always do that. We have to be patient with them and teaching them how to develop and helping them develop. And again, it teaches us patience, but it teaches us how to develop as parents along with them. Guys, if you guys are enjoying this, I apologize for the technical difficulties, but if you guys are enjoying these interviews, let me know, guys. I want to hear from you. Email me at krelationships@gmail.com. Let me know what you think. He's back. You good?
Yeah, I think there's something God want me to share that the enemy don't want you guys to know about or something, man.
Right. That and I believe that, the enemy tried to mess it up, so we won't get this out. But you were telling me what's the best part of being a father?
Oh, oh man. The best part of being a father really for me is watching the love that my daughters give back to me. I mean, and even in the way, like when I don't even ask for it. For example, when I came home earlier tonight, my daughters they didn't even know I was in the house yet. But when they heard Daddy's voice, it was almost like something clicked on the inside of them and they wanted to run toward Daddy. And then they all came and gave me hugs and they were very excited. Right. And I don't say that just for the fact that I have them running back to me. I say that for the fact that there's something that's created in the process of me being a father to my daughters that I didn't necessarily have when I was growing up, right? Where I didn't, when there wasn't any time when somebody came home and it was like my dad, and I ran to that. And I think for me, that shows the importance of the power of like really a father's life in a child's life, right? Or father's role in a child's life. So that's really kind of one of the most, I'd say one of the, if I give you one more exciting thing, if that's okay.
Yeah.
I grew up playing football. I don't have any sons and I'm grateful for God for giving me daughters because it's taught me a lot as a male. But I'm a dance dad. So I go to dance on Saturdays and I tell my wife, look, I'll do dance, Dad. Let me do that. And really for me is just being a part of their lives, helping them to understand and work their way through different matters. Even in dance class, there's lessons that they have to learn. Lessons about, yes, I know in this gym you hear things being played that we don't listen to at home, but there's a reason why we don't listen to that at home. So having to really teach them and things like that. So there's a lot of lessons throughout every day that I'm with my girls.
So let me ask you, as a dance dad, are you learning the routines and practicing at home, helping with everything?
Hey man, I did have to actually do one. There was one class that the instructor didn't show up, so myself and another parent had to go in and actually do the class. She did the teaching. I did more the administrative side of the thing. So
yeah, yeah. I bet there's a video somewhere showing you teaching them dances. I'm actually on Facebook message your wife and ask her to give us some video.
Oh man, look, if she give you some video, man, we're gonna have some. I don't know, man.
So how important are a father's words to his child?
For me to have three girls that don't lose a memory of anything I say, man, it's so important. Many people have no idea how important it is. When you say something like, I'm proud of you, I'm happy that you've done certain things. There have been moments even where I've been disappointed, and I'll tell my daughter Grace, I'm disappointed. Now Grace is one that she's so emotionally connected into knowing when her father says something, like she'll start crying because she knows she doesn't want to hear those words from her dad. And it's similar to me. I don't want to hear that from my dad, or I don't want to hear that from God. It's extremely important. Your words have power, and the word talks about that. And and that goes beyond just being a father, but it's that much more important when it comes to, from a father's standpoint, because this is a seed or a child that you have created along with your wife. So making sure that you're pouring positive words into them, encouraging them, teaching them, And when they do disappoint, making sure they know that they disappointed, but then not only saying you're disappointed, but giving them the instruction on this is how you cannot disappoint in the future if you do this and this and this and that and the other. I'm not saying they have to be perfect, but you teach them that although you're disappointed in this matter, you can now bounce back from that,
Right.
by doing X, Y, Z. So it's okay to make a mistake.
Yeah, and that's good, and it's important that our kids know that. I'm big on words, and I talk about the importance and power of words all the time. That's one of the main reasons why I started this, because when my son was born, I tell a story all the time, and I feel it's worth telling again. When my son was born, I was terrified because I was asking God, what am I going to teach him? What am I going to say to him? I didn't have my father. I had bits of wisdom. I had wisdom from role models and mentors, but it's different when you have that wisdom from your father that, my daddy said this. And I was like, what am I going to teach my son? And then God gave me these things to teach him. But the main thing that God showed me that's important for me to interact with him is what I say to him. Yes. And how I say it. And because I've seen people where I was told coming up that I was slow, I wasn't going to be anything. I was going to always just be a certain way. And I coming up, I thought that, that I wasn't going to be anything. I was slow, and I didn't have a lot of confidence until I got older and got more mentors that got in high school and things like that. But one thing, my godfather would never let me accept that. He would always tell me, this is how I want you to be. This is how you're going to be. And those words help me. See, when we speak into our children, we speak into their future. When we talk, our words go with them into their life, because you have daughters. So what you say to them shapes the type of guy they marry. How you talk to them shapes how they allow men to talk to them. Your daughter, as she gets older, become a teenager, she could go out and meet a guy that try to talk to her any kind of way. She could like, hold up, my daddy didn't talk to me like that.
Absolutely.
So you could talk to me like that. Same, my son, how I treat my wife, treat his mother, he'll go out and he'll meet a female and he'll think, well, daddy said this to mom, so let me say this. Let me do things like this. So that's what we have to realize as dads, that our words shape our kids' future. Our words shape their character. Our words shape their identity. Because what if you just said to your girls all the time, you're nothing. You're not going to be anything. You disappointed me. Yeah, I'm mad at you. So then they're going to be like, they're going to accept that. But, as a father, our words, I go back, and I'm not going to get too long-winded on this, but when you go back to, I believe it's Zechariah in the Bible, before John the Baptist was born, when the angel told him they were going to have a baby, before he could even say anything, the angel shut his mouth up. He couldn't say anything for the whole 9 months. Well, we don't know if she was pregnant at the time, so it could have been for longer than that.
That's true.
Until the baby was born, because his words literally would have stopped the pregnancy if he had spoken doubt. And so, absolutely, the father's words are so important to the lives of our children. What advice would you give your children about greatness?
Well, Nate, actually, let me add something to that words piece, though. I want to say this. When you were talking about that, and I got this water bottle right here. I'm envisioning kind of an empty bottle, right? And the more and more we talk, our words fill that bottle up, and this bottle becomes whatever our words say. And so I think our children are just like that. Literally, God gives me visions like that to see things. And that like literally is it. I mean, you fill them up with those words, and that's what's going to come out of them too. Because that's the other thing too. It's not only the words you say to them, it's what they listen to, it's what they're exposed to, the environments they're in, because those things that come in their ear gates, their eye gates, those things that go in and will eventually come out. Because what goes in the heart, you know what that means. It'll come out. So
yeah, that's true. I see that with my son, and I have to, because one day we was in a car and he was just on his iPad in the back seat, and I was driving. I said, "Oh shoot!" He said, "Oh shoot!" Never looked up. Just like on his iPad, like, "Oh shoot!" And then we have this thing, and I said this all the time. We have this thing where every morning when I drop him off at school, I get eye level with him. I grab him and I said, "Son, you're great. You're a champion. You could do anything. and Jesus
Yeah.
loves you. Be great and do great today. So when he come home from school, I say, son, what you do today? I was great. And he said things. So like today, I dropped him off. I said, son, what are you? He said, I'm great. I said, what are you? He said, a champion. I said, what can you do? He said, anything. I said, and he said, and Jesus loves me. I was like, he got it.
There you go. There you go.
Because he's able to recite it back to me, because now when he knows that daddy's going to say that to him in the morning, so now he knows that. So now he's going to grow up and he's going to be thinking that as long as I keep saying it to him, in his mind, he is great. He's a champion. He can do anything. And I see that coming out of him when he's doing stuff around the house. He's like, Daddy, I can do it. I said, son, you can hurt yourself. I'm going to be careful. I can do it, Daddy. And I'm seeing that to the point where I want to put those up in his room on the walls when he wakes up. He sees that. But like you said, when we fill it up, we fill these water bottles up. And then when we go to drink, we're drinking what we put, what they put in here. So we're drinking nourishment. Same with our kids' words. They're getting nourishment when we speak it to them. Man, that's good. I like the water bottle analogy. So what advice would you give your children about greatness? What would you tell your girls about greatness?
Man, I when I think about greatness, I think about kind of the unbelievable in some people's mind, right? I think about David in the Bible. I think about like some of the things that people said he couldn't do. So as far as greatness goes, I mean, I try to teach my girls that they could do anything they want to do in the world, and there's nothing that can hold them back from that. And one of the other things that we're always doing is, I mean, it's always words of affirmation, those positive words about really you can go beyond just where this mark shows today. So, for example, you probably heard the story about the marathons and about how people who run marathons. There were a certain limit on marathons early on, saying that people could only go so far. So I try to teach them, like, there's a certain level and you can continue to take that up even further. And, there's a quote that I've kind of lived on since I was in high school. And that quote is, high achievement takes place in the framework of high expectations. And I want them to make sure they have those high expectations no matter what's going on in every situation. So I try to make sure they understand that. We continue to take it up every time, take it up a notch. You did a great job yesterday. You read a whole book yesterday. Let's read 2 today. Let's see how far you can get through more. Or like, and sometimes they'll challenge me. They'll say things like, Dad, I wrote all my numbers out in my whole page. And I'll say, well, that's great. You went all the way to 10. Why don't you go to 20 now? And they'll say, no, I want to go to 1,000. And Dad, can you help me write it out? So like they're already kind of doing that in their mind. They're trying to take it to the next level continuously. So
that's good. That's good. And you're teaching them to have no limits on their lives, and that's what we have to teach our children, because sometimes we put limits on our children by telling them, you can't do something, or you don't want to do that. You want to do this, or we try to put on them what we want. I gave this example before. I'm a drummer, and you are too. But he's a drummer, guys. But my son, when he came out the first time, put a pair of drumsticks in his hand, he knew what to do. He started shaking them. And I don't know if that was just a baby reflex or not, but I was like, oh, yeah. He likes the drums, but it's not something that he's like has to do. And I was asked that, what if your son doesn't play drums? And I said, whatever he wants to do, I'm fine. He likes to sing. I'm not going to be mad if he don't play drums. Now, I would be greatly happy, if that's the way to put it, if he played. If he didn't play a musical instrument, I know it's in him because it's in me. But if he sings because my wife sings, then, that's great too. My wife says she wanted him to learn guitar. Would I have a problem with that? No, I wouldn't, because I don't want to force on him what I want him to do, what I think is greatness for him. And we put limits. Another example, I asked him tonight. Well, one day he was in school and they got on a thing on his board where it says, what do you want to be when you grow up? He said, police officer. on his. And I was like, no, I was telling you, but then I caught myself. So I was like,
Yeah.
I can't tell him no. You want to be a police officer because of my fears of him getting of what happened to a police officer, so he may get shot. I mean, he's protected by God. So I said to him that, well, son, if you want to be a police officer, you're going to be the best police officer there is. You know, you be the great best at anything you do, because sometimes we think because we didn't want to do that or we don't want them to do that, that we hold them back. And as parents, we got to be careful because it puts limits on them. And we got to tell them what's great, that they're great, and help them to do things that's going to help them achieve greatness. Now, we know what's right and wrong. And we have to look at, okay, so well, son, no, you can't do that. That's not right. No, that's not a good thing to do. Let's look at something else. Let's do this. But you're still not putting limits on them because you're just stopping them from going the wrong way and down the wrong path. But I think it's important that we teach them greatness. I want to ask you, and I was thinking about this while we were talking, and I've talked to guys who didn't have their fathers in their life, and I've never thought to ask this question. How did your father impact how you're raising your girls? Okay, you didn't have your father in your life, then he came in your life. How did that impact your interaction with your girls and you raising your girls?
Man, that's an easy one for me. I'll tell you why, because I could tell, I know why I'm the way I am, and it's because of that. I actually am very careful about, saying things that I don't follow through on. I'm very careful about, not spending time with them. Like if I'm, for example, on the weekends, what you typically catch me doing is you catch me in the evening times. I try to make sure I'm doing day trips, so I'm back home in the evening if every night, because I want to make sure that I'm getting every moment with them. I'm helping to craft and really drive them. And I think a lot of that comes from the fact that I didn't have my dad. I mean, literally, it was like I don't want to say there were no boundaries, but the boundaries were not as strict as I probably would have. They probably would have been if there was a dad in my life. Because I was a little bit of a hard head to my mom at times. So really, I think for me, it really forces me to focus that much more on making sure that I'm careful about what I say to them. I'm careful about every interaction I have with them. I'm careful about how I treat them. I'm really, I think I'm more dialed in, if that means, because it feels like I'm almost trying to overcompensate for something that I didn't have, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes total sense because I'm the same way with my son, man. I even, as far as doing these interviews, at first I was doing them at 7 because I got off work at 5:30. I come home and I play with my son, spend time with him, and give him his time before I came on. But then when our work hours changed, when the daylight savings time changed, I get off at 6. So to do them at 7, the first week I did it at 7, getting off at 6, he was really, really frustrated because he didn't get to spend time with daddy when I got home, because that's the first thing I do. So I had to think about what's important, and important was time with him. So I said I have to shift him to so I can give him his time between 6 and 7, and that's important. Now he's happy because when daddy come home, daddy gets to play with him, daddy gets to spend time with him. And I'd rather spend time with my son than anything else. I was telling somebody about that last night. He gets my time. It's important that he gets my time. So this has been good, man. So let me ask you, give some advice, some nuggets to fathers out there. What piece of advice would you give to fathers out there who may be new fathers, may not be in the lives of their children, or maybe are in the lives of their children, but give a couple of nuggets to the fathers out there?
Absolutely. I think, the first thing I say to any father out there that is a new father is enjoy every moment and every season, even the difficult seasons, because it helps you to appreciate the great seasons as they come in the future. That's a gift to any new father. Really make sure you have a regimen around praying with your children and teaching them the importance of prayer and even sharing the word with them. I think that's extremely important because I think a lot of times, we meditate, one of our children may say, and really sometimes our children do actually hear from God. So we need to make sure that we're listening to them, and part of listening to them and making sure they understand the importance of knowing who God is making sure you give weight to when they say something or when they share something. This past weekend, weekends ago, we were at a conference, and there's a pastor that shares about when his kids were growing up. They used to say, Daddy, I saw something under my bed, or Daddy, I saw something in the. Most parents would just minimize that and say, no, go back to sleep. You didn't see anything. There's nothing in your room. But really, rather than doing that, what he would do is he'd actually spend time and listen to them and say, what did you see? Why don't you describe it for me? And then allow them to help them utilize the word of God to kind of combat that thing. We have no fear of sudden disaster. God has given us authority over all the earth. So making sure that they spoke word over that thing. So he really taught them. And that's something I tell you as fathers, if you're new, and even if you're a new father newly in your kid's life, really take that time and really help them grow in the word and show them and spend your time in the word too, because you won't be able to help them grow if you're not spending time in the word. For a father that is not in their child's life and that probably thinks that it's too late to do so, I'd say you really need to reflect on yourself. As difficult as it's going to be, reflect on the things that you've done, the things that you probably think that they won't be accepted, and put those things all to the side and go humble yourself, interject yourself back into the life of your son or daughter. The reason that I'm telling you that is because until you do so, there'll always be a void in your life. Until you do so, there will always be a void in your life. Miss out on things that God wants you to learn. You'll miss out on things that God wants other people to learn that are around you watching. So take the opportunity to humble yourself and go spend time with your child. And when you do so, it may be difficult. You may have a mother that may not want you involved in their life, but you have to do everything when they don't treat you like you're supposed to be doing. Everything, sure that you are persistent, you're consistent to try to be in that child's life, because you're and no matter if you tell yourself that you don't love that they may not love you, that I gotta tell you, focus on getting back in your child's life.
Man, that's good, man.
And lastly, for anybody that's in considering having a child, or you and your wife are thinking about having a child, really take the time to pray about that child now and before and in the future. You want to pray for not only them now and their future. You want to pray for their husband or their wife, depending on what you want to pray just consistently, even early on, for those things that you can kind of craft that even now as a father.
That's good, man, because my wife, you best believe she's praying for, we're both praying for Caleb's wife, because, she's got to meet some expectations.
All right.
And, if we ever have a daughter, going to be the same thing, because her husband's going to have to meet some expectations, man. But we thank you, Gareth.
See you, but I don't hear you.
You don't hear me? Can you hear me? You hear me? Can you hear me? Hear me? Okay. So you can hear me. Man, we thank you for being on tonight. Apologize for the technical difficulties, but we have technology can do that sometimes. Man, I appreciate you.
Thank you. Yes.
For coming on and for sharing this wisdom, man. I love to have you on again. You can hear me?
Yes.
I think we got some delay. But Gareth, man, if you can hear me, thank you for coming on tonight. We appreciate you. And you be blessed, man. Thank you for the words of wisdom. Guys, we had a great time tonight. If you have any questions at all for me, for Gareth, if you have questions, email us at krelationships.
I can hear you, yes.
Okay. Email us at krelationships.com, at krelationships@gmail.com, or you can go to our website at kingdomrelationships.org, or you can email Gareth on Facebook Messenger, and he can give you his email address information if you have a question for him. Guys, thank you for coming on tonight. This was great. Really enjoyed having you guys. Until next week. Again, guys, next week, I believe we are about to start our series with interviewing some females from a daughter's perspective. So you guys look out for that. We got some great things coming to Father's Authority. Appreciate you. Love you guys. You guys be blessed.